welcome to the attic. This is the attic warming live stream party thing. I figured it would be nice to, apart from anything, it's helpful to test out the equipment and see what our live streaming capabilities are now that we're not in the bunker. But it's also a good opportunity to show you all the attic, although there isn't that much to show you because it's a similarly small space. This is a transitional studio. We do have our eyes on, I can reveal, a permanent studio, but it's a little bit complicated with the timing because basically here in Croatia everything shuts down in sort of July, August, and everyone just heads off to the coast, which is actually makes perfect sense if you think about it. They should do that everywhere. Just everyone be on holiday at the same time. But yeah, it's complicated, but we do have our eye on a permanent studio. This will not be a place where I'm going to be filming videos for years. At most, it will be a few weeks that I'm filming videos here for. But we've done our best. We've brought a painting from the bunker. The painting behind me is actually the work of an ex-Jehovah's Witness artist. And this was donated to the bunker. So it's nice to bring a little bit of the bunker, albeit a bit of the bunker that you haven't really seen that much. It's nice to bring it here. Obviously, the camera's here. Hang on, I better check to see whether the audio's okay. Can we just get a confirmation that the audio and video is absolutely perfect? And if it isn't perfect, I want details. What's going on, people? This is the awkward bit where I have to wait because there's a delay, isn't there, of a few seconds. Audio is fine. It says Euphemia HZ. Thank you, Euphemia HZ. I hear you, says JW No More, with a very interesting avatar there. That's like unabashedly evil JW.org logo, isn't it? It's all good, says Melindy Crafts. Thank you, Melindy. Everything looks good, says Joris. That's brilliant. I'm so glad. Because there's nothing worse than kind of launching into a live stream and then realizing that no one can hear you, or despite your best efforts, things are not optimal. So, where was I? Yes, it's a transitional studio. This morning, Tibor and I went to the bunker and denuded it of all its most important equipment. In fact, before I say much more, I do have a video that Tibor filmed with me earlier just to give you a little bit more perspective on the attic. So let's play that, shall we? I'm going to... So we've just finished setting up. This morning we stripped the bunker of the equipment. We've got the lights, we've got the camera, the monitor, the trusty SM7B. Everything's here. And I was expecting to feel a little bit sadder and more nostalgic when we were getting all the stuff out of the bunker, but it actually turned out to be quite liberating to be, I don't know, doing something different and moving to a different place, albeit a transitional place. Currently, Tibor is filming me on my own phone. He always finds new ways to be gracious, it seems, and so thank you, Tibor, for filming.
You're welcome.
And thank you for your very hard work, because there are lots of stairs up to the attic, aren't there?
Yeah, definitely.
Tibor loves the word count that he gets when he's on his way up here. So yeah, we're all set up now, and I look forward to making more videos in the attic. So yes, that was a little something we prepared earlier, just to give you a little bit more perspective on what the setup is here. I know some people like to see all that sort of thing. I like to see that sort of thing. I like to see what the backdrop is, what YouTuber or creator is looking at. I don't have anything else really planned. I just thought it'd be nice to hang out with the viewers, and so I'm just going to go through some of the comments from earlier. Dirk Brilke says, "Schöne Grüße." Hang on, I've got to pronounce this properly. "Schöne Grüße aus Luckenwalde." Probably I've butchered the pronunciation there, but thank you for the greeting. Yay, can't wait, says JB. Well, I'm here now. The waiting is over. Clyde Bell is keeping things succinct with a yo. Yo to you too, Clyde Bell. Benji Dom, Edición de Video says, "Hola Lloyd, greetings from Mexico." Fantastic. It's always nice to actually be reminded of how far-reaching YouTube is and how you can actually be seen by people in all different parts of the world. That actually never gets old to me. And I know for some YouTubers it's, oh, Mexico. But for me, it's a really big deal. The thought that somewhere in Mexico I am appearing, or my visage is on someone's device of choice. We've got Arthur, trusty Arthur. Hey there, everyone. Less than 14 minutes till we go live. Arthur, come on, keep up. No, these are all old messages, obviously. Nice to see Jamie Angel here. Hello, Jamie. Farted says, Ben, maybe he's admitting to something. Okay, so here's a question, and questions are welcome, by the way. Maybe comments are fine too if there's something you want to get off your chest, but maybe if you do want to ask a question, now would be a good time, especially if it's attic related, and this one sort of is. I hope we get to see some of the books. Need visual confirmation they're okay. That I can't help you with. So the decision I've taken with the books, and I hope that I've played this one correctly, is that they've managed in a mouldy environment for a few months now, because it's been really since the bunker was expanded that the mould issue has deteriorated. We were more or less on top of it before that, but for whatever reason, I don't know how buildings work and moisture works, but for whatever reason, things really deteriorated after we expanded the bunker. And my position is that if the books survived, those months, I can sort of maybe get a few more weeks out of them being there. And then what I'll do is when I'm moving them, I will obviously check them to make sure that I'm not just transferring any mold anywhere else. So they're kind of a little bit at the mercy of the elements, although the dehumidifier's running constantly. In fact, there are two dehumidifiers in the bunker. There's one in the studio end and one in the office end. Both dehumidifiers are running constantly. And the books are, for the most part, on the wall opposite where the mold is. So I'm kind of hoping, because actually lugging the books, it would make no sense whatsoever to bring the books up to the attic, and then only to take them all down again just a few weeks later, maybe even a couple of weeks later. We don't know yet. And also Tibor would probably hand in his notice if I asked him to do it, because it is a lot of stairs. So yeah, let's just I know, why don't we make it a matter of prayer? Why don't we'll leave it to Jehovah's hand. If Jehovah wants me to have the books free of mold, then I'm sure his angels can minister to them, and he can lavish me with his Holy Spirit. It will be a test, if you will, a little bit like was it Elijah or Elisha with the fleece and the moisture? Did anyone, by the way, there's a good question. Did anyone ever because I did this as a kid. Did anyone ever do like a test to see whether Jehovah was real? I can remember on my hands and knees putting an object underneath a piece of furniture as a Jehovah's Witness kid and saying a prayer to Jehovah and saying, if you're real, please move the object. And the reason I put it under the piece of furniture was because it was relatively sheltered and I knew it wouldn't get knocked over or kind of blown by anything. And obviously it didn't move. But I'm wondering whether anyone else did that sort of thing. Maybe I was just a weird kid. Yeshua says, got my PB Toasties and a mug of OJ. Let's do this, fellow heathens. Yeshua knows where it's at. Yeshua knows how to do these live streams. Clearly a veteran of how to be comfortable during long or streamed videos. Yeshua also says, since Satan rules this beautiful world, that means your attic should already be fairly warm. Yes, heat rises, doesn't it? And and also the beauty of being at the top of a building is that hopefully it's going to take more effort for the moisture to reach us. And we're less flood prone, I guess, in an attic than we were previously. So, yeah. Hopefully, I don't think heat's going to be a problem, though, to be fair, because it's scorching hot in Croatia at the moment. Dawn Morris says, hello, Lloyd. Looking forward to the party emoji. Welcome, Dawn, and I hope you're enjoying the party. Let me skip a little bit because I want to keep up with any newer messages. Oh, we've had a super chat. Thank you so much to Pana Lysenka. You need new background. Churchke. Yeah, I will grant you, Panna, that the background is a bit sparse, but I can only repeat that it's a transitional studio. I did consider putting the YouTube plaque somewhere like here, for example, but I actually happen to be of the school of thought that YouTube plaques, if you have one, it's a bit pretentious to have them on all your videos. And for that reason alone, I refuse to put it actually in my permanent background. When we have a permanent studio, it will have pride of place somewhere that's off camera, but and it is actually just round the corner. I've put it up somewhere. It's like the Ark of the Covenant. It travels wherever the videos are being filmed. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit different, a little bit more white and sparse for a while. And we had another super chat from the Revenant. Thank you very much. That's actually an unexpected avatar for your name. I was expecting something a little more grisly. We've got Arkansas represented. And I know how to say Arkansas now. I once made the terrible mistake of pronouncing it Arkansas and have been ridiculed about it ever since, especially by patrons of mine who are from said area or state. Austrian Wolf, who speak of the devil, who is a patron, says, hi Lloyd, glad to see you're away from all that mould. Yes, thanks. It's actually really, really nice to not have to smell the stuff. I mean, I suppose after a while, you kind of get used to the smell, but it's not a good smell to get used to for health reasons. And yeah, it's nice to be in a nice, clean, dry environment, far, far away from moisture of any kind that isn't being controlled in some way. Johnny says, hello, Lloyd. Much love from Texas. Welcome, Johnny. Did I show this one? Scott Slater is watching from the Midlands with his guitar, being embraced, one would assume. That's how you treat a guitar, Scott, to be fair. They need love. New digs look good, says Context is Everything. That's a brilliant name for an account on YouTube. And some thought has clearly gone into the avatar there. New digs look good. Is the painting an original? Yes, it's, as I mentioned previously, it was donated by an XJW artist. And I love it. It's brilliant. How long will you be in the attic? It certainly won't be longer than... I'm not going to be making videos here in October because this is a rented space, and I have it until the end of September. So that's given us like a nice transitional period to find somewhere. Tibor and I actually, we've done 2 viewings so far of different places. One of them was actually today, and it was actually quite a nice place, but it's just that there's another place, a third location. The first location was terrible. I would have been embarrassed doing a warming of any kind there. The second place was far more promising that we saw today. And actually, I could imagine it as the new studio. It's just that there's a third place that we've not been able to view yet, and we're hoping that it's going to take a bit of work, but we're hoping that we can secure it at some point. And it's nice to have this place where we can film at our leisure until the ideal place becomes available. Make it a matter of prayer, viewers. That's all I can say. Apparently you can pray for anything. Jehovah's Hand will supply anything. That's how Jehovah's Hand works. It's all about mundanity. The more mundane the request, the more likely it is that Jehovah will intervene. Howdy, Paul says, howdy, Lloyd, from Merediton, New Hampshire, actually working in Woodstock, Maine. Thank you for joining. I've never been to New Hampshire. It's one of the states I've not been to yet. Neither have I been to Maine, although both sound fascinating. A relief to see you far from black mold. I've escaped it with my life, Daniela, as has Tibor. And, you know, as I mentioned, I thought it would be a little bit more emotional moving the stuff out of the bunker earlier today. But, yeah, it just felt like, well, this is what needs to happen and let's do it. And it's moving in the right direction. It's change. Change should be embraced, no matter that it's a bit scary sometimes. Tess N says, Lloyd, you are wonderful. That's a little bit too generous, I would suggest, Tess, but thank you. I hope you will continue your amazing work and watch out for the Mormons recruiting you. Are they homing in on my location? They've done a darn good job. We've met many times, but I must say, I mean, I don't want to give too many spoilers away, Tess. I don't want to spoil your enjoyment of the remainder of the Mormon series, but I can tell you it has an end, and the end was my doing. I actually think they would have, and I want to be as charitable and kind as possible in case they end up watching this one day, but I actually think they would have studied with me indefinitely. I really got the impression that they just enjoyed chatting. Because bear in mind, I'm in a non-English speaking country, and these were native English speakers who had basically they were doing a mission in Croatia. And I genuinely got the impression that they just enjoyed being able to do their mission in English without having to try too hard. Mind you, having said that, lots of Croatians speak English, so I'm sure they're not short of English speakers to spend time with. But yeah, it was actually me who cut things off eventually, because it just felt like, well, I won't spoil it for you, just you'll see. It will be revealed. Okay, it's nice to see a few familiar faces. We've got Petal Parker, and as you can see there, we also have Like a Fox, aka Amanda. Sky has left. I didn't get a chance to see Sky. I must have missed those messages. Outer Darkness says, "Hello, Lloyd from the United States. By the way, the wall art is a nice touch." Well, I think it's really, really lovely art. It's actually signed as well. I don't know whether you can see it, whether it shows up on camera, but there's a little signature there, and it's got a love heart in pen on the inside. It's a beloved piece of artwork, and it felt fitting to bring part of the bunker with us, apart from just the equipment, so that it can be enjoyed. That's what art's for, isn't it? To be enjoyed. Super Attic Lloyd, hopefully not too confined. Let me think. Confined. It is a little bit more confined because the desk I'm on now is very small compared to the one I had. This is probably, I'm going to say, less than half the size of the desk I'm used to. But you make do, don't you? You adapt. It just means I've got less space for cluttering my desk up with things I can't be bothered to move. So it's forcing me to be tidier and work smarter. So I really can't complain at all. In fact, if anything, the camera has more space away from me, which means that we've been able to use our telescopic lens, which hitherto had been reserved for when we were doing field work or shooting documentaries or that sort of thing. But we've been able to use the telescopic because there's enough space now between me and the lens. So JB asks, may I ask why atheist? I understand, but I'm curious, and sorry if I missed your share as to why. Yeah, I have made a few videos on that. I think one of the most recent videos was I didn't become an atheist, I reverted to atheist. And to cut a long story short, I say in the video that basically we're all, if you think about it, born as atheists, because we're not born with a set of religious beliefs, are we? We're given them, depending mostly on what country or culture you're born into. So if you could be raised as a Muslim, you could be raised as a Sikh, you could be raised as a Hindu, you could be raised as a Christian. It's kind of a lottery, isn't it? A lottery of birth. And I feel that I've reverted to atheism because I've stopped believing in religion, or I'm no longer persuaded by any religious propositions. But I identify as an agnostic atheist because I can't prove that there isn't a God. No one can, in my opinion. And I'm happy to be persuaded by evidence if a deity of any kind exists. I just haven't seen any evidence yet. So the default position, I must assume, is that of agnostic atheist. I'm not an atheist in the philosophical sense of the word. Some people bang on about the true definition, the one and only true definition of atheist, as decided on by philosophers, because apparently philosophers write our dictionaries for us. I don't subscribe to that. I think that language is decided on by the people, and I subscribe to the colloquial definition of atheist. I hope that explains things. Hello from Poland. Welcome, Joanna Alabaster there in Poland. I hope the book survives, says Gary Sloan. I think they will. I think, again, we're leaving this up to Jehovah's hand, and I don't want to speak too soon and grieve the Holy Spirit, as Ken Flodin would say, in any way. But but they're a hardy set of books. I know my books, and I reckon my books will survive the great mold problem of 2022. Sharon Idle says you'll find all the books get saturated and mouldy if you leave them there. Maybe the dehumidifiers will help. I think they will. I think that basically the problem is a structural problem on one side of the bunker and not on the other side. The side that the books are on is pretty much free from mold. So I feel confident, or else I wouldn't have left them there. I feel confident that they'll be in good shape to move to the permanent studio. I'm not going to check each and every book when we move them, but I will be checking randomly to see whether there are any issues with mold. But I'm pretty sure they'll all be bone dry when I move them and free from any unwanted, what's the word? Stowaways. Scrolling down, we have Finland represented. Welcome, Essie from Finland. Lilia isn't mincing her words. Honestly, the books are trash to me. I used mine for a bonfire. Yes, I do relate to that, and I have actually. I confess freely. I have burned books myself. Not sounds really bad, but I'm a book burner. I did go through a phase in my early awakening where I wasn't bothered about whether books were destroyed or not, and I can remember helping out my dad who needed to clear some space in his house because he's a hoarder. Don't mind saying that publicly. But I had to burn some of his belongings that were, we could get rid of. And some of them were organisation books. And I actually now think back and think, oh God, what if there was a 2012 days text among those items? Because that's the only days text that I'm missing at 2012. So, but I do relate. It's just that I think of the books as kind of like how you need a sample of a pathogen in order to develop a vaccine. That's how I think of them. It's like having samples of the poison so that I can show people how it works. That's why I use the books. That's what they're for. In and of themselves, they're useless. They're just cover to cover twaddle. But it's helpful, I think, to show the twaddle sometimes so that people can realise that they've been conned. So that's the end of the books then, says John. Bear with me. I think the books can handle it. I feel like I know my books. I think I've shown that one already. Or have I? No, I think I have shown that one. But thank you again for the super chat. I trust Satan more than Jehovah personally, says Amanda. Well, I kind of trust them both about the same because they're both non-existent, of course. But I think I know what you mean. Lisa Sinsheimer from Dallas says, "Hi, hello from Dallas, Texas. Keep up the great work, Lloyd. You are wonderful." I'm not going to be able to get out of the attic at this rate with people telling me I'm wonderful. It's very sweet of you, though. Thank you. I guess it's nice to have a bit of a pick-me-up now and then, isn't it? It's a nice change from people telling me I'm anything but wonderful. Gideon was the fleece. Thank you for correcting me there, David Clover. Yes, you're right. You're right. It was Gideon. It was in Judges, wasn't it? It wasn't in any of the later stories. For some reason, I had it mixed up with Elijah and Elisha. But yes, it was Gideon with his fleece. And Amanda says, "Oh hell, yes, I tested it." I'm glad I wasn't the only one. Me and Amanda, we both put Jehovah, our God, to the test in our younger years. David said Elijah was the fire for his sacrifice. Yeah, I'm definitely not going to invoke fire because I'm literally in a flammable structure. There's wood beams everywhere. That would not work. Lots of people correcting me about Gideon. I'm happy to stand corrected on that one. Thank you, all of you for being alert and clearly knowing your Bibles better than I do. A. Smith says, absolutely tested to see if Sky Daddy was real. I want examples, though. What did you do? What exactly? You don't have to tell me, of course. It might be very, very personal to you. I'm trying to think what a really, really personal test would be. Don't tell me if it's really super personal. Keep that to yourself. But if it's family friendly, let us know in the live chat how you tested Jehovah to see if he was real. Sharon Idle says, when I did a test, he failed. Sounds like a COVID test, doesn't it? Wouldn't it be great if it was that easy to test whether God is real? You just stick something up your nose and put it in a piece of plastic, and yeah, that it should be. Mind you, that's not easy. Some would argue, and in fact, very uncomfortable. If there was a less uncomfortable way to scientifically test it and get an immediate result with like a bar that appears or doesn't appear, that would be brilliant, wouldn't it? Melindy says, for a long time I thought God lived in the dark corner of the ceiling. It's not a very prestigious place to live, though, is it? If you're the supreme creator of all things. Oh, I'm going to live in the dark corner of someone's ceiling. But maybe he considers that luxurious. Who knows? His ways are higher than our ways, aren't they? I guess. God moves in mysterious ceilings. Greetings from Finland, says Annette Lindbom. Welcome, Annette. Midnight Middleman, there's a name. A name and an avatar worthy of instant respect. So, lots of points there awarded to Midnight Middleman. One time I just wanted to yell, Jehovah, as loud as I could in the middle of a field and see what happened. Probably Tibor would emerge. Probably you would invoke Tibor. Maybe Tibor is Jehovah. Have they both been seen together in the same room, I would ask. And I think viewers deserve to know definitively whether or not Tibor is in fact Jehovah. But yes, I can relate to you scurrying into a field and screaming in despair. We've all done that at some point, surely. Congrats on your new space, says Mommy Does Cato. Thank you very much. And hope, keto, I haven't tried it, but I've heard things. I've heard positive things about it. Let's scroll down. So much brighter the higher up you are. Yes, it's actually, for me, it's a nice kind of change aesthetically from the darkness of, it wasn't that dark, the bunker, but I suppose being semi-subterranean, it's always going to be a bit dark. Mind you, one of the things Tibor's taught me since we started working together is that in order to do this, natural light is our enemy. I used to quite like having the natural light coming through the bunker door, but Tibor taught me that that's a bad thing because you need a controlled environment in a studio. You need the light levels to be a constant, and apart from anything else, that allows you to film at any time of day and keep continuity. So, for example, sometimes I'll film one rebuttal over 3 or maybe even 4 days, and just do it in chunks. And when you're in a studio and you've blocked out all natural light, it's impossible. The only way that you would tell which parts are different is actually my hair. My hair will switch from one sushi to another if it's a different filming day, which is kind of partly why I've taken to having it shorter, because the shorter my hair is, the less conspicuous a bad hair day will be, if a bad hair day is interrupting filming. I'm letting you in on all our secrets now. But yeah, in terms of actual light for filming, it's the same as the bunker. But yes, in all other respects, it's a brighter place. Brandy Shea says, happy attic warming. I turned in my disassociation letter 15th of July 2022. My daughter turned hers in days before. My hubby is unfortunately staying in for now. Wow. Well, congratulations to you and your daughter. And as regards your husband, it's everyone's journey to take, isn't it? I don't begrudge anybody who, for whatever reason, needs to play things safe or needs to keep up pretenses for a while. It sucks. It's not nice to have to do that. It's, you could argue, a drain on your mental health, but we all have our own path to walk, don't we? And I'm sure that whatever your husband decides to do, I'm sure you and your daughter will be supporting him and helping him and just being kind. That's all you can do, isn't it? Be kind and understanding. But definitely congratulations on your very recent disassociation. That's brilliant. Less than a month ago. Wonderful. Satan might kill your books, posits Sharon Idle. I would counter argue that it's impossible to kill a book because it's obviously not a living thing. But the mold is definitely a living thing. And hopefully the mold will, through Jehovah's Holy Spirit, give the books a wide berth. MM, with a very suitable avatar in my opinion, just needs another one, another M, says, good afternoon, Lloyd. I'm currently sipping on coffee, listening to your broadcast with my children. Oh, I've got to be extra careful not to swear then, haven't I? There are traps in this world, and it's better to learn of them while they're young. Wow. Thank you. I feel slightly chastened by knowing that there are children watching. I've got to be extra careful now. But hi, kids. And yes, I do agree, actually. I think that people need to be warned, and children especially, that there are people out to indoctrinate them. Petal Parker says, I put the bread on the toaster and crank the dial up and see if it burns, is my fleece test. That is actually, yeah, on the subject of lots of people watching of various ages, can I just make it clear that it's not necessarily a safe thing to crank the dial right up on your toaster. There could be a conflagration of some kind. You want to avoid things burning in an indoor space. If your toaster was outside, let's say in the garden or in the yard, as you Americans put it, then you can conflagrate away as far as I'm concerned. But definitely be careful doing that with a toaster indoors. But that's an interesting test. And I guess that's making it easy, though. Isn't that making it a little bit easy? Because, of course, toast is going to burn if it's on the maximum setting, depending on how efficient your toaster is. I'm getting more than I bargained for in asking these questions, but thank you for sharing that. And it's actually quite humorous to think of you being attentive while your bread slowly burns. Good morning from Australia, says Such a Punk. Good morning to you, or good day, should I say? Is that tiresome to say that to an Australian? Maybe it is. Amanda says, I brought a troll doll to the Kingdom Hall in my book bag. Wow, that's rebellious. Because I was told they were one of those toys Jehovah didn't like, and I was curious if he'd find a way to stop it from entering. Nope. Wow, that's That's interesting. That is an interesting story. I'm glad that you've shared that story on the channel, because that just shows, doesn't it, how paranoid Jehovah's Witnesses can be. I actually think that trolls were more of an issue, I'm going to say, in North America than they were in Europe, because when I was growing up, I don't really remember any fuss being made of trolls. And yeah, I don't, maybe I'm, feel free to correct me if you're in Europe and trolls were a massive deal in your local congregation. But for me, they weren't. But wouldn't it have been funny if your bag suddenly levitated and there was just one troll-shaped point at which from which your bag was hanging, and it just kind of levitated out of the door? That would be hilarious. But yeah, that's a good one. Thank you for sharing that. Jacob Baxley says, "Thanks for all you do, Lloyd. You've helped a lot of people escape from the Borg, including me." Well, that's wonderful to hear. I can only repeat what I routinely say, and that's that, I can only make information available, and it goes without saying that the majority of Jehovah's Witnesses ignore it. But every now and then there is a brave, courageous, honest individual like you, Jacob, who doesn't like being lied to and has the courage to challenge their beliefs. And as a result, they end up waking up. So well done for having those attributes. And I'm glad that I could be of some assistance. And thank you for the kind message. I'm wondering whether I'm going to keep up with these. There's so many messages from the 227 now viewing. Maybe I should. What happens when I scroll is it sometimes leaps forward in the comments on StreamYard, so I've got to be careful. Amanda also says, but I've also done the whole pray to move objects thing too, so I'm not the only one. That's good to know. It never worked. Spoiler. I told my mum, and she told me I was wrong to do that. Yes, thou shalt not put the Lord thy God to the test. It's literally in the Ten Commandments. But, when you're raised in a society that values science and the scientific method, it's inevitable, isn't it, that you're going to resort to experimentation of some kind. Because if God is real, and if he really wants you to know he's real, why wouldn't he move the object? Daniela McGee says, not a Jehovah's Witness, but yes, tested God as a child in different ways, including telekinesis. Yes, that's what it was, I guess. But yeah, telekinesis is moving objects with your mind, isn't it? So I guess we're asking God to move an object with his mind. Although, would it be his mind if he's invisible? He could move it with maybe an invisible appendage. There's a mental image for you. But yes, it's good to know, again, that I'm not the only one. Let me scroll a bit further. Michael Garcia says, woke up after a 30-year nap. The interview with Brandon Fiquet was when I knew for sure. Can't believe I could be bamboozled like I was. You speak for all of us, I think, who've been XJWs. We all feel, how on earth did we put up with this for so long? Shame on the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, Christine Garcia. So Christine has commandeered, it seems, the YouTube account of a certain Michael Garcia, who I'm going to take a total stab in the dark and suggest is maybe Christine's significant other. So thank you, Christine, for sharing that, and the little heart emoji. Howdy Paul says, howdy Lloyd from Meredith, New Hampshire, USA. Oh, have I read that already? I've read it already. I'm going to try and skip forward. But thank you again, howdy Paul, aka thank you, Meredith, sorry. Thank you, Meredith, for leaving that message. Lois says, "How are your lungs?" I think they're I think they're okay. Um, um, yeah, as far as I know, health wise, I'm fine for now. Yeah, I can't really complain. Um, what microphone do you use? Asks Wally Barnett. This is a Shure SM7B, and it's been my trusty companion now since I think the beginning of 2019 was when I bought it. Um, and I set out to buy it, or I think I went. I remember going into an audio sort of disco karaoke supply shop in a London back street, and they didn't have the microphone. Sorry, I asked for a recommendation, and the first recommendation he didn't have, but he did have a Shure SM7B, and when he showed it to me, I recognised it from a whole bunch of other YouTubers I was following, and I thought, well, if it's good enough for them, that'll do, sort of thing. Apologies if my voice is actually. You know what I'm going to do, because my voice is giving in a little bit. I'm going to have a drink. I think I've shown Sharon Idle's super chat, but I'm showing it again just in case I haven't. Here's one from Jamie Angel. Thank you, Jamie. Not attic related. Always wanted to know what your advice would be to people that became the Watchtower poster child for failure after leaving. How to succeed. I'm going to think about that while I have some water, because that's a really good question. I promise you it's water and not vodka. What advice for people that became a Watchtower poster child for failure after leaving? How to succeed? I guess that's, we're talking now, aren't we, about people who were basically shamed and who stopped attending meetings or were disfellowshipped and life didn't go well for them. I think there's an element of self-fulfilling prophecy involved there, isn't there? When you've been told for years and years and years, you will fail if you leave the organisation, guess what's going to happen? I know it doesn't happen in every case, but in lots of cases it will happen, because that's what subconsciously you've been conditioned to think. And I do think self-fulfilling prophecy is a thing in those situations. How to succeed: believe in yourself. Don't blame yourself. That's the main thing. You know, you can't help the fact that in many cases you were indoctrinated into something from before you could even walk. So how on earth could you have any control over that? Your upbringing was in a way perverted into something it shouldn't have been, into an attempt to recruit a cult drone. And you can only deal with the hand you've been dealt, and life is in itself a trial and error exercise in many ways. You know, we make mistakes, we pick ourselves up, and we do better. That's all you can do when things go wrong. It certainly has absolutely nothing to do with some God who thinks that Stephen Lett and Anthony Morris and David Splain are the best possible people on the planet to dispense his wisdom. That would be my answer, I guess. I don't know whether I've done it justice, because it was a brilliant question. Thank you, Jamie. Scrolling down. Here's another super chat from Midnight Middleman. Judge Jehovah by his size, do you? You invoking a Yoda, encouraging a Yoda impression from me, and I can do them. My favourite one is, well, there's loads, aren't there? There's loads of Yoda expressions. But I really love the scene in The Last Jedi, because it took me by surprise, and it was directly tapping into my childhood. and it was where Yoda says,
Read them all, have you? Page turners they are not.
I really love that scene, and it kind of makes me think of the bunker and the books in the bunker, and how they're really not page turners, but how rich would be my knowledge of JW history if I did actually manage to get round to reading particularly the older ones. It's kind of, I kind of want one day to have enough time on my hands where I can read Studies in the Scriptures 1 through 7. I know 7 isn't really Studies in the Scriptures, it's a kind of a bogus edition, but I'd really like to have the patience to sit down and read them all, because they're basically unreadable. They're really, really tedious, self-indulgent ramblings. But if I could summon the patience to really sit down and read them and contemplate what they're trying to say, I would know what the religion was like at its very beginnings. I guess that's on my bucket list. It's certainly not going to be on everyone's bucket list, is it? John Mulhern says, I offered to help a local woman that was a Mormon with gardening duties, but because I was not baptized, she was told to keep away from me. You offered to help a local woman that was a Mormon with is this as a Jehovah's Witness? Okay, I'm assuming you were a Jehovah's Witness at the time. Hang on, she was told to keep away from you. That's what's interesting about that anecdote is when I was I don't know whether I mentioned this. I don't want to do any spoilers. I will say this: Mormons are big on offering to give you practical help. That's something they do. I can attest. They will say, if there's any work you need doing, just let us know. So it's not Jehovah's Witnesses aren't the only ones who offer to come and rake up your leaves or whatever it is you're supposed to do when you're trying to coerce someone to join your group. I'm going to keep scrolling a little bit. Hello from Southern California, USA, says Kikaru. Fellow atheist here, just wanted to say that I appreciate the work you do. Thank you so much, Kika. That's very kind of you. Sharon Idle says that she was pagan after being a JW and then became an atheist. JB says, very good points, and I appreciate your sharing. I think this is on my atheist comment. You've helped me so much. Oh, thank you very much. I think it's worth stressing that I don't expect everyone to share my opinion regarding religion and atheism and what have you. I'm happy for anyone to watch my videos, and I actually think it's a really cool thing when Christians and believers of any kind really tune in to my channel and allow their beliefs to be challenged, especially if they believe in the Bible, because I'm constantly knocking the Bible, aren't I, in my rebuttals. Do you mind, viewers, if I have a biscuit? I'm really keen on these biscuits at the moment. Linsari Chino Petsivo Sapunyenyem od Marilitze. Basically, they're apricot shortbreads. They're shortbreads with apricot jam in them. And I had them down there because I thought probably during the live stream I'm going to feel a little bit hungry, and I do. So I'm going to eat a biscuit while I scroll down. I'm sorry if it's not very good YouTube. Don't get me started. There's so many lines. There's some comments that I don't understand, so I'm just gonna, I hope you don't mind. Joanna Alabaster says, Bible says mold is a curse from God. Oh, does it? I'm going to look up Leviticus 14 verse 33. Bear with me a moment as I do that. I'm trying not to make crumbs because this biscuit is really crumbly, which is why I like it. What was it? Leviticus 14:33. Then Jehovah said to Moses and Aaron, is what that says. Is that a practical joke? If so, it's brilliant. Let me give it more context. All right, it says, when you... Then Jehovah said to Moses and Aaron, when you come into the land of Canaan, which I'm giving you as a possession, and I contaminate a house in your land with the disease of leprosy, the one to whom the house belongs should then come and tell the priest, some kind of contamination has appeared in my house. I guess you could say that's mold, isn't it? Because it's not going to be actual leprosy, which is a human disease. So they probably saw any kind of growth on a building as being leprosy or a contamination of sorts. That's brilliant. So that means, does that mean the bunker's cursed? What priest do I tell? I'll tell Arthur. Arthur will fix it for me. So I'll say to Arthur, some kind of contamination has appeared in my house, and he will do something. He will slaughter an animal. Yeah, and he'll do something Arthurish, and it will all be fixed. But that solves that riddle. You know, where did the mold come from? It's a curse. You heard it here first, folks. Howdy Paul says, thank you for describing the reason and explanation of atheism. That has been a curious matter for myself and probably many others. Yeah, I think it is, actually. I think that certainly when I was a believer, I regarded atheists as sort of weird, you know, as this kind of... I wouldn't say I was scared of them. I was more like bewildered by their existence. You know, how can anyone not believe in God? You know, that they must have some really weird thing going on in their heads. And I don't think believers... It's rare for me to find a believer who is fully conversant in why atheists take the position they do and what the various nuances of atheism are. So, for example, Gnostic versus agnostic. So if I'm sharing that for the first time, I'm happy to do so. And I'm also happy to eat the final piece of my biscuit. Do we file this under ways I put God to the test? Hey, it's actually good, perfect joint paper, isn't it? I don't know whether would the current paper work in the Silver Sword. It would certainly have worked in the older Bibles. Scrolling down, I'm really delighted with how many comments are coming in, by the way. Reich1234 says the painting may be an abstract picture of the paradise, ? I can see what seems to be a lion eating grass. Haha, greetings from Spain. I know where you're coming from with the grass because there's quite a lot of green on it. But I'm not seeing a lion, but I'm glad that yeah, I really, really like the painting. What can I say? I think it's lovely. I think abstract artwork, when done properly, I don't like all abstract art. I think I've seen some abstract art that, quite frankly, looks like a cop out. But I think when abstract art is done properly, it's magnificent. To the making of many books there is no end, says the organisation with millions of books. It's true, though, isn't it? It's true, and I've commented before, if it's really the truth, and if the truth is straightforward, why do you need to release a new book a new study publication every 5 to 10 years? Why is that? Why is that necessary? Why do you even need a book to supplement the Bible? Clearly, God has done a poor job at communicating his ideas if his word needs supplementary material. But if you're going to produce supplementary material, why does it constantly need to be revised? What you're telling us is that you're actually not sure what you're not sure what interpretation is correct, because you're constantly dancing around and changing your mind. How did we not see this, when we were JWs? Hey, this is a new improved way of drawing people to Jehovah. I don't like this comment. If anything, from Garage Aviator, if anything happens to the books, we must have a video of the bonfire. Make sure to bring marshmallows. We can joke, Garage Aviator, but the thought of my beloved books needing to be destroyed, it's really, really weird. It's hard for me to describe. I know that they are tedious, ridiculous nonsense, but when you've worked with them and had them in your quote-unquote toolkit for literally years, you kind of develop a bit of an attachment to them. And I especially like the way they look. I like how multicolored they are. It would be different if they were all the same color. If they were all, let's say, blue, I wouldn't be particularly fond of having a wall of blue, and I wouldn't really be interested in having it on camera. But because they're all such a wide array of colors, including even a gold and a silver book from the 70s, I think it makes the perfect backdrop. It's almost, while we're on the subject of art, a piece of art in itself, isn't it? The way the books look when they're all together and in year order, which they are. And that's one of the things I'm dreading when the books get relocated, is keeping them in the same order, because I don't want to have to check every single copyright page again to find out what order I should be putting them in. My OCD demands that they be in year order, unless it's the Insight book or something like that doesn't really matter what order you put it in. MM says, Lloyd, I like what you said about Paradise. Why is it never depicted that they will be playing with Black Widow spiders? Yeah, they're very selective, aren't they? When it comes to which species people will be cavorting with in the fields. It's typically the sort of creature that you would perhaps have as a fluffy toy. Loads of kids have soft toys that are lions or bears or what have you, that typically would do you a lot of damage. So we're kind of raised to kind of sort of imagine cuddling those sorts of animals, even though they're killers. But who's going to bed with a Black Widow spider? I guess where my logic fails there is that lots of people have soft toy sharks, don't they? And my argument was, where are the pictures of them cavorting with sharks? So yeah, scrap that. My arguments, I've completely eviscerated my own argument there. But my my argument stands as regards them being very selective, which with what creatures they show in their literature for paradise. I'm going to scroll a little bit more because I'm desperate to have a as wide array of comments and commenters as possible. David Fields says, I think I threw mine in the trash. The first book I threw away was my book of Bible studies. I used to have night terrors over that poppies, olives, salamanders book. I'm changing the acronym because there are children watching, David, but I think we know what you mean. And we all relate, I'm sure, to your sentiments about that particular publication. Hello from hot and steamy Maine says, too much ado. I didn't know Maine could be hot and steamy. I always imagined Maine as being quite a bit cooler and bracing even. I'm happy to learn something new about your particular state. We have Portugal represented as well. Welcome, Ruslan Rotaru. Bobby Lee says, sending warm wishes to your attic. Thank you, Bobby. We warmly welcome you. I love the word smoked. I don't know quite what you mean there, Clyde, but I love the word smoked, so I'm going to show the comment. God never smoked my stepdad, but my bunker has been smoked with mold. We've learned in this live stream. We've got another God testing one. Another way I tested God was I asked him to make my crazy mother go away. He must be real, because as soon as I left, she went away. Although, to be fair, if we're being kind of skeptical here, it would be more extraordinary if your mother, who you allege is crazy, you know, we should be charitable here and assume that there's another side to the story. If your mother were here, arguably it would be more of an anomaly if your mother stayed glued in the same location for days on end. That would be more unusual, I would argue. In other words, she was going to relocate at some point. We have Norway represented. I'm almost certainly going to mispronounce this name. Celia Hedrick. I'm really sorry if I've mispronounced it, but thank you so much for your comment. I really, really hate mispronouncing names, but I also hate not reading them when they're literally in front of me. So I'm kind of, my brain goes into this this vortex of confusion. Should I risk offending someone, or should I risk not reading the name? And then I end up just trying to fight my way through. Ali Dowd, LOL, Tibor equals Jehovah. Ali, you can't prove that he isn't. Who can? You know? He's gracious, and Jehovah is meant to be gracious, isn't he? Apart from that one time, which we won't talk about. And they've never been seen together in the same room. Make of that what you will. I'll let you be the judge. Okay, Celia says, fended off a couple of publishers with your reasoning in the back of my head just recently. Oh, that's fantastic. I'm really pleased that something I've said has been used. Mind you, not that I would, I guess, promote the idea of fending off publishers. I guess engaging with them is better. But I think probably what's happened there is that you've sown some seeds. You've given them something to think about, and probably them leaving wasn't you telling them to get lost. It was them feeling uncomfortable because you'd completely dismantled their beliefs, one would hope. So well done. That's brilliant. Full marks to Celia, assuming that's how your name's pronounced. Scrolling further down. It's nice to see that a black sheep is here, because I need to do something. I need to actually go onto the live stream and anoint said viewer, who is also a friend of mine, a personal friend, with the blue spanner. I'm happy to do it live with you all. If I can only find a black sheep, aka Jana. If I can find... there we are. Add moderator. And this has been agreed in advance. Jana has very kindly agreed to be a moderator. So congratulations, Jana. You now have the blue spanner of doom. With great power comes great responsibility. Thank you for joining the moderators team. That's brilliant. That's fantastic. Round of applause for Jana. That's brilliant. I don't think any other moderator has had their moderatorship commencing quite that way. Madeline says, is it true Jehovah has a celestial car? I heard that's new light. I think we mean chariot. Was it Ezekiel's vision? I want to be extra precise with my Bible characters now. I think it was Ezekiel's vision, where there's a weird chariot with wheels, with eyes in the wheels. It's basically a kind of like a drug trip, isn't it? Like a bit like Revelation. You wonder what the writer was on at that point. And David Clover says, Lloyd, you do know that they have a watchtower study when they meet in the attic. I will find it. Yes, well, I did actually sort of have that in mind in naming it the attic, because I think there's a little bit of continuity with the bunker, because I'm sure that there's, as you say, a picture in the publications of them meeting in an attic during the Great Tribulation. So, basically we're talking about different extremes of a building being used to hide from the authorities, because as we all know, at some point Jehovah's Witnesses are going to be exclusively pursued by the nations of the world, to the point where there's going to be a situation room with various world leaders and military generals huddled around a table, and there's going to be a video wall with Sam Hurd on it. They should have picked a younger governing body member, shouldn't they? I mean, at least give us a younger governing body member who's likely to still be around in, say, 10, 20 years. They've picked literally like the oldest. I think it's between Sam Hurd and Gerrit Loesch, isn't it? Who's the oldest? Anyway, there's going to be a situation room in somewhere like the Pentagon where there's live footage of Warwick and a JW broadcasting shot of Sam Hurd and people pointing at things pointing at plans on their table and figuring out how the devil they're going to get rid of Jehovah's Witnesses. We know this is going to happen because it's in the Pure Worship book. Is that what we're calling it? Arthur will correct me. I think it's a Pure Worship book. Laurie E says, husband is Pomey, but he knows I'm an active opposer. He's supportive of my decision. That's interesting. He's physically out, he's mentally in, but he supports you. He can't be that mentally in then, can he? Because arguably he wouldn't be supporting you if he were completely mentally in. But I guess there are there's nuance, isn't there? There's a spectrum of belief or unbelief. Okay, it's Tibor, not Timor, but love Tibor's pro tips about the studio. He's been brilliant. He's been really, really good at upping my game in the video production area. It's literally what he learned in college, and he's brought his skills to the table. So I'm really pleased. That's why I hired him. You know, I was quite insistent in the job description that people have proper training, and he did. So I'm reaping the benefits of higher education, as is Tibor. Okay, I'm mindful of the fact that I've been streaming now for well over an hour, and I don't want to particularly stream beyond the 90-minute mark. So I'm going to start wrapping things up a little bit. Jana says, is this all natural light? It's so bright up here. No, it's not. This is all artificial light. And as explained previously, it turns out when you do this properly, that natural light is the enemy, and you need to get rid of it as much as possible, because what you want, ideally, is a controlled environment where you can manipulate the photons to your wishes. And Tibor's always banging on about photons and where he wants them and how he wants them to behave, because he's clever about that sort of thing. There's a super chat here. Thank you, James Cameron. Started from the bottom. Now we here in the attic keep climbing higher and higher. Yeah, the next one will be, welcome to the roof. Hello, I'm Lloyd Evans. You join me. Welcome to the roof. What's the typical video intro? It's time for another voicemail. Today's voicemail is from an anonymous caller. As I sit perched atop this roof, let's listen to what they have to say. I don't think I will be doing that, but it's an interesting thought and very humorous thought. MM says, I appreciate the shout out, Lloyd. Don't worry, you have a very clean channel, and I don't believe I've ever heard you cuss. Oh, I have. It's just, I do it I try to do it as rarely as I possibly can, because I want my content to be as accessible as possible to Jehovah's Witnesses, who will run a mile. Frankly, even just scruffy looks and being unshaven will make some Jehovah's Witnesses run a mile, and I'm not going to pander to all hang-ups that Jehovah's Witnesses or ex-Jehovah's Witnesses may have residually, but I do think it's reasonable, given the subject matter, to limit swear words as much as possible. But I do actually, anyone who has met me in person knows I swear quite a lot when I'm not in front of a YouTube audience, because it's actually quite enjoyable. I think swear words can actually be quite therapeutic, even sometimes, to use. A bit like weed. But they're not for everyone, a bit like weed. Anna Zielinska says, you are very popular in Poland. Oh, that's nice. I did obviously do a documentary in Poland called The Polish Exodus, and I really enjoyed making it. And I have a great fondness for that country. I hope I get to go back before too long. I'm never going to get to the end of these comments. There's so many of them, and I really appreciate you all leaving them. That's the cleanest looking attic I've seen yet. Well, yeah, it's we wouldn't just have any attic. And there is an unclean part of the attic. There's like an adjacent room. You know how the bunker had in the early days had like an adjacent room that no one dared to go in, and we eventually renovated it. Well, this has an adjacent room, and it looks like I'm not exaggerating. It looks like a crime scene. You know, if you were scouting for locations for shooting a crime drama where a body gets discovered, that's the place that you'd choose. It looks absolutely horrendous. It's just whereas this is kind of like, you know, done up with plaster and what have you, plastered walls. The adjacent part isn't done up, and it's just the roof timbers and cobwebs, and oh, it's hideous. It's horrible. Maybe at some point I'll find a way of showing you all, but not today. Not today. I'm coming up on the 90-minute mark. I need to race through some of these. There's a good question. Melindy Craft says, you're obviously a fan of Star Wars. Is there any other sci-fi stuff you like? I am equally a fan of Star Wars and Star Trek. I was once asked at a live event, you know, which do you prefer? And I said, it's like being asked to choose between your children. I really love both Star Wars and Star Trek. They're both, in my opinion, completely different takes on space and science fiction. What other science fiction do I like? I'm a big fan of the Back to the Future trilogy. What else? Something else I like. My mind's gone completely blank about all the science fiction I like. I've been quite enjoying Snowpiercer on Netflix. That's science fiction, but it's a bit unfeasible in my opinion. They're really going to have a track that goes all the way around the planet and never needs any maintenance? Anyway, I'll keep scrolling. There's lots of science fiction I like, but my mind's, maybe it's because of the time here and how long I've been streaming, but my mind is slowly, despite the sugar boost it received earlier, turning to jelly, or jello as they say in other parts. Christian Boyce says, so the attic is not quite the bunker in aesthetics, but I'm sure it's work in progress. Thanks for the great content and keep up the good work. Yeah, it's never going to, we're never going to get the charm and the, you know, the character of the bunker here, because it's just a temporary filming location. But I have big ideas for the next studio. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the live stream, we have our eyes on somewhere that both Tibor and I are quite keen about, but it's a little bit complicated for various reasons that I won't go into, sealing the deal, but we're working on it. Going further. I really, really do appreciate all the comments. It's lovely to see so many of you participating in the live chat. I've done a few impressions, Arthur, but I'm glad that at least one of them met with your approval, because you do a few impressions yourself, don't you? Jamie Angel says, good advice, everyone. Thanks. Was asking for a friend. Yeah, I really hope that situation works out, Jamie. Really good Yoda. The only thing is, it hurts when I do it. Whenever I do the Yoda impression, I feel like my throat's on fire. I think to do it properly, there should be like a kickback from it. And I don't know how Frank Oz actually does it so much without constantly needing glasses of water. He's a genius, in my opinion. The next time the Mormons ask for you to read a scripture, you should just unexpectedly read it as Yoda. There won't be a next time. So it's a bit late, your suggestion, but that would have been funny. Um, Camus says Mormons are big on help, but it's all just manipulation. Sadly, yeah. Look, when they offered it, I was like, oh, come on. It's almost because I know how this works, and I've been in a very similar group in terms of the control tactics. But bless them, they don't know. They don't know that it's all control, and they're just doing what's been suggested to them. G. Bunting says, I read Millions Now Living Will Never Die. It's unbelievably stupid and arrogant. It's nothing but a mad rant. I'm glad I read it through. Yeah, that's a good one, actually. It's actually quite similar to A Finished Mystery. It's equally self-indulgent and ridiculous and fantastical. And yeah, I wish more people would read books from that era, which, let's be honest, is when The Faithful Slave was supposedly chosen. Anyone who actually reads the publications that The Faithful Slave were making back then would quickly realise that it was all nonsense. That's a good one. Yeah, I did actually think about this before doing the stream, and I wondered how to do it. Because I obviously did a stream about the court witnessing resuming, and I was wondering, should I do a stream about this? But I actually don't know what I'd say on it. It would be, I think the announcement is just a sentence. Joss11 says, hello, Lloyd. I just opened the stream, and I'm not sure if you have already answered this, but what is your opinion about Jehovah's Witnesses starting door-to-door work again? What's my opinion? I think it's sort of inevitable, isn't it? I think if you're going to do the meetings again, you're literally going to put people in a room together, and you're going to insist that where possible people should meet in person, which is what they've only just done. It stands to reason that you would go back to doing the door-to-door work. But what I will say is this. I think that if COVID, what's the word? Well, we're still in the pandemic. That's the thing. And if COVID surges again to the point where there are significant cases of COVID and significant deaths, and we're right back to square one with lockdown and what have you, heaven forbid, they'll have some explaining to do, won't they? Because they supposedly are being guided by God, and they're apparently one step ahead of worldly wisdom. So how come they're just, doing whatever they can get away with? So it will be interesting to see how this plays out. But I guess I'm mostly indifferent. I think it's going to rub some householders up the wrong way, isn't it? Let's face it, they're not really, in many cases, welcome anyway, are they? When there isn't a pandemic, but knocking on people's doors without an invitation and breathing on their doorstep in the midst of a pandemic, you're just giving people one extra thing to throw at you, aren't you? By way of complaint. So they've clearly decided that the positives outweigh the negatives, and they're going ahead with it. I think it was going to happen eventually at some point, as I've said. But I think it will be interesting to see if this backfires. I really hope that we don't have to go into lockdown again. But depending on who you speak to, that's quite a real possibility, because it's not going anywhere, COVID. I had it just 2-3 weeks ago for five days. Fortunately, I had a very mild variant, and it just made me quite drowsy. But it's killing people still, so who knows what's going to happen. But I'm sure they will be hoping that the worst of the pandemic is behind us, and therefore they're justified in making that decision. And that's my opinion. We're past the 90-minute mark. let me just try. Oh, there's a super chat. Thank you so much to Christian Boyce. After recent therapy for post-traumatic stress syndrome, I got told I should tell my story via podcast, YouTube. What advice would you give in relation to this? Wow. Well, first of all, I don't think anyone can tell you to do it. I think that it's something that you should feel fully comfortable doing, especially when you've had therapy over your mental health. I would definitely not feel pressured into it, which is probably not what's happened. It's probably just the way you've phrased it. But definitely go into it kind of wanting to do it and being ready for the exposure. And I'm here to tell you that exposure can be in and of itself a real problem to deal with, because once people see you on their devices on YouTube, some people, not everyone, but some people more or less think they own you and think that they can do anything to you and throw any kind of abuse at you, and you become basically their property in their twisted minds. And so there are definitely drawbacks. But having said all that, if this cult is going to see a final day, if we're ever going to see a time when it's no longer controlling people in the way it's controlling people now, and it's never ruining people's lives, if that day ever comes, it will be because people like you are sharing their story and inspiring others to break free from an abusive, manipulative group. So I think as many people as possible need to speak out, including on YouTube. I found again that there's sometimes a price to pay. But would I do the same thing all over again? Would I start a YouTube channel? Absolutely. And so I can only wish you the very, very best of luck. And my advice, sort of from a YouTube-y technical standpoint, would be authentic. Don't script things too much. Just share as much of yourself as you can. People will enjoy hearing your story much more if it's raw and if it's unfiltered. Make sure your video is well lit. If you're shooting with any kind of camera, be it a smartphone or a video camera, the lens is only as good as the pixels you allow it to see. And for that reason, you need as much light as possible. And despite everything I was saying about natural light, if that's the only light you have, make sure you film outside. Make sure your shot is nice and bright. If you do have lights, or you have a way of lighting up your inside, if you do have a way of lighting filming inside, then yeah, but just make sure you've got plenty of light. Try and record your audio separately in something that's going to capture the audio in a nice, crisp way. But even if you don't, even if you're just using the camera or smartphone microphone, that's fine. The first camera or the first setup I ever had as a YouTuber was a really cheap digital camera that came free with an internet subscription. It was a JVC digital camera with a little lens that popped out when you switched it on, and it had a movie function on it. And it wasn't shooting in widescreen format like we have now. It was like in the 4:3 format. And it was like a really grainy image. And I was using the microphone on the digital camera, which was rubbish. But you've got to start somewhere. It was propped up on some books. I didn't have a tripod back then. But people still watch those videos, I cringe whenever I come across them. But people still watch those videos and find them helpful. So don't overthink it, I suppose. Don't overthink what you're going to say, and don't overthink your setup. But if you do want some technical advice, hopefully I've given you some. And good luck. I hope your channel does very well. Scrolling down. I'm really trying to kind of steer the ship over the finish line. I just want to make sure I'm covering as many people as possible, including any super chats. It's really, really, again, touching to see so many people commenting and also talking to each other as well. I think it's really lovely that there's like a community among viewers of the Lloyd Evans channel where people can just banter with each other. Joanne Alabaster, thank you for your super chat. Pastor Andrew Womack says he's prayed away mildew in his house. Maybe he will help you. By all means, if he wants to... Dear Jehovah, please help me with my mildew problem. How does that even work? Or Lord, I guess he would say. Look, if Pastor Womack wants to defeat the scourge of mould in the bunker, I'd happily have him and maybe interview him and film the spectacle. That's nice to see. I'm glad that we've been able to capture for posterity the message when Jana got the blue spanner. So congratulations again to Jana for being anointed with the sacred blue moderating spanner. And nice to see her all immediately greeted by a fellow mod, and Arthur there as well. The trinity of moderators. Since I'm anointed, I'm going to start partaking of bread and wine now. Actually, always have. Love me some carbs. I think Tony partakes of wine, doesn't he? That's for damn sure. On a good day. Let me just scroll a little bit more. It's amazing when there's so many comments that I just literally cannot reach the end. That's an interesting name. Moist Marone Heisman says, Lloyd! Thank you, Moist. And that's a really... I like the fact that you've depicted your name in your avatar with the use of droplets. That's very, very nice. I don't know about you all, but I'm really partied out at this point. Lots of people still asking about the door-to-door. It has been addressed, trust me. I'm there's so many comments. Alice Griff 79 says, "Hey Lloyd, your voice always soothes me to sleep." Does that mean I'm boring? Thank you for saving me from many sleepless nights and teaching about a subject I knew nothing about. Best of luck with the new studio. Oh, thank you. That sounds like you have never been a Jehovah's Witness and you just find the subject interesting. And I think it's really lovely when people tune in, despite having little or no knowledge of Jehovah's Witnesses, and they show solidarity with the cause. I think that's a really beautiful thing, and I think we need more people like that, to be honest, if we're ever going to see an end to this awful cult. Thank you very much indeed, David, for your super sticker. That's very kind. Thanks also to Co-op. I'm assuming that's how you... It's either Coop or Co-op. we have the cooperative in the UK, and it's a similar colour, their branding. So, actually, no, it's not. That's turquoise. Actually, Tibor will love your super chat because he's obsessed with turquoise, whereas cooperative is light blue, in case you were wondering. Melindy Craft says, I have no problem with you going over the 90-minute mark. That's very, very sweet of you to say. It's just that the spirit is eager, but the flesh is weak, you know? I'm worried that my voice in particular might not handle it all that well. Jana says, it's important to be kind to them when they come to the door. Remember, they're brainwashed. It's best to prove worldly people are kind. I agree wholeheartedly with those sentiments. Being rude or aggressive with challenging them reaffirms their persecution paranoia. Could not agree more. You wouldn't believe, going back to what I was saying earlier about the drawbacks of being a YouTuber, you wouldn't believe how much abuse I had hurled at me when I once made a video saying this very thing, and how much I was basically, people were accusing me of being an apologist and a traitor and all sorts, just because I pointed out the obvious, which is that you're never going to persuade someone by confronting them and being a dick. There you go, I've sweared. But there's no other word to being an antisocial person doesn't sound as good as the word I chose. AA says, yes, I never agreed with being toxic to the rank and file. Better to plant seeds of doubt lovingly and with kindness. Very true indeed. And I am just never going to get to the bottom of these. Finally have reached the bottom. It feels like some kind of proceed to next level moment. Sarah Harrell says, any plans to come back to Austin, Texas Atheist Convention? I don't know whether there is. Is there one planned? I don't know. I don't have any immediate plans, and I don't know whether there is one. Is there one? Who knows? I'm not really, to be honest, I'm not really in the mood to do events at the moment. I'd rather just make videos and stay away from people. Is that bad? That's how I feel. I'm quite happy to just navigate my way through this thing called life by myself at the moment. Tor says, Lloyd, you do 4-hour rebuttals. I have faith your voice can handle it. Yes, but as we've already established, Tor, there's a little bit of trickery that goes into those rebuttals because especially the 4-hour ones will be filmed usually over minimum 2 days. The last one was, in a superhuman Herculean effort, I managed to do it in 2 days. But usually a 4-hour one or anything like over 3 hours or around 3 hours would be done over 3 or 4 days. So yeah, that's mostly because my voice will pack in if I subject it to much more. Stuart King, nice to see you, Stuart. Nice to see a familiar face. I had a Jehovah's Witness guy, a guy that I once knew. He asked me, even if I didn't believe anymore, did I ever think it was the best way to live? No. It isn't, is it? In fact, it's a very easy way to die if you end up needing blood. And I think we'll leave it there. That's the end. So thank you so much to all of you for tuning in. It's currently 200 who are here at the bitter end of the attic warming party. So you're here at the end. You're like the stragglers who the host needs to kick out because you're gorging on my Pringles and on my popcorn. And no, everything, all good things must come to an end. So let's draw this to a conclusion. Suffice to say, I am in the attic now. Future videos or the next few videos will have this shot. Will look like this, and I want to profoundly thank Tibor for helping me move things today. He was brilliant with getting the equipment disassembled and then reassembled. It's been quite a long day, but here I am at the end, and now I can put my feet up for a bit. But actually, I've sort of been putting my feet up with you all here because it's been really enjoyable to go through the comments and have a bit of a laugh. We've had our moments of levity, haven't we? So I wish you all a very, very agreeable Thursday or Friday, depending on which time zone you're watching in, or when you're watching this after the fact. And thank you so much for tuning in. And I'll see you around. Take care, everyone.